Hello and welcome back to my channel. So in a couple of my past videos, everyone has been telling me how much they just love my little Stitch. Actually, he's like life-size. Can you imagine him just like crawling all over you? Like, he's so cute. But I thought I would show him all to you because I said I would. So here he is. Also, I have a Toothless holding a lightsaber right over here. And yeah, he's super cute too. But anyways, yes, here's Stitch. Happy March. Anyways, this is gonna be my February wrap up, and I read 7 books, which is pretty good for me because I've been reading like 1, 2, maybe 3 a month. So this was a good reading month for me. Also, if you watched my Valentines TBR video, you would have known that I was trying to get to a lot of books that I was kind of already in the middle of. And I finished 2 of those books that I was already currently reading. The other ones were new reads. The first book that I finished in the month of February, I'm not going to go much into it because you guys have all heard me rant and rave about this book. It's probably annoying at this point. So Trial by Fire, I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I will link up below and up below. I will link up above and down below the link to the live show and some of my vlogs for the Trial by Fire read along that I hosted with a few other co-hosts that you guys have probably seen around BookTube yourself. All I'm really gonna say about this book is that I love the characters, I love the character development, I love the world building, and the magic system is on point. But yeah, since I've talked about this book so bloody much, I'm just gonna go on to the next one, but 5 out of 5 stars. My next book was the group book for Team Neverland. I don't know what I'm doing. But yes, but it was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nan. And this, I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. Going into the book, I know there was a lot of mixed feelings and reviews about this book, but I really enjoyed it. So it is a fantasy YA with female representation. I love any fantasy book now with LGBTQ plus rep. And it was really well done. And that's going to be one of the main points I talked to you about this book, is that it was so well done. It was heartwarming and just so good. And this is about girls from the paper caste, the lowest caste in this world, taken to be the king's concubine. It's horrible. And kind of their story and how they go about getting through this time and kind of how it changes and molds them into new beings pretty much. A lot of the girls are finding themselves or just trying to get from day to day in this year that they have to be basically personal concubines to the king. This book does have a few trigger warnings for animal abuse. It's at the very beginning of the book, but once you get past that, like, you don't see it really again. But it was a very hard scene for me to read myself, so if that's something that really triggers you, please be forewarned that it's at the beginning of the book, so after you get past that like little hump in the road, you should be good to go. And rape and abuse. So I don't think it's a secret that this book has rape abuse culture because of personal concubines, if you know any history about that, but just in case you didn't, it's kind of like off camera, but it is talked about. So if that's something that really triggers you, I would be very careful going into this book. The writing of this book was so beautiful. There were so many quotes in this book that I had to stop and think like, wow, how deep, like deep and meaningful and beautiful. The meaning behind everything was just such a masterpiece. Like, it was masterfully put together, and the writing really was just spectacular. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I did take a star off because of the beginning. It was very slow for me. I'm a very plot-driven reader. I like things to happen. I like there to be action. I like things to just be bam, 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 with good character development also. But I know I'm a very plot-driven reader. I didn't take off more for that, but the beginning of the book, it was very character development, and the characters were put together just phenomenally, but it was just a tad slow for my liking. I also wanted a little bit more with the main relationship. It was done very well. I just wanted more of it. But push that fact aside that I just wanted more of the relationship. It was done very well. It was sweet. It was new. And it felt innocent and pure. And it was such a heartwarming relationship that I adored it from the very beginning. And I actually found myself being quite invested in their relationship. Another reason why I gave it 4 out of 5 instead of 5 out of 5 was the ending felt very abrupt. Like something was missing almost. In hindsight, this didn't hinder the cliffhanger at all. Like, the cliffhanger was on point. It's just, the ending felt very abrupt to me, and even with cliffhangers, I just like for the ending of a book to be just a tad more put together and feel a little bit more like a conclusion, even if there's going to be a sequel like this. It's just, I hate when it feels like you're in the middle of a scene or a chapter and then it's just like, the end, see you later. So yes, that is just another reason why I took a star off, but very good. I highly recommend, and it was beautiful. So yes, this was my group read for the BookTube games. Not that I did all that great. Sorry, Team Neverland. This next book I gave 3 out of 5 stars, and I just wanted it to be so much more than it actually was. So let's get into it. Children of Eden by Joey Graspa. So this is about a girl who is a twin. And in this world, there's population control. It's kind of a dystopian kind of book. And so I got very Octavia from the 100 vibes. I think I've talked about it before in some of my past videos. I wanted it to be more action-packed. I wanted there to be more sneaking around. She's not supposed to exist. More hiding, more like light-threatening like instances. And I mean, you get some of it, it's just, I guess I wanted a little bit more. And yeah, like I knew her life was in danger multiple times, but like in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, she'll be fine. I don't want to like be reading a book about a girl that's not supposed to exist and is supposed to hide from the government and then to be like, ah, she'll be fine. I didn't get a lot of feeling out of this book, and it took me months and months and months and months to read because I was like, maybe something will happen. No. This book, with the dystopian feel and the population control, gives a very end of the world vibe, which it does, it is, sort of, but there's still very much a system in place within like the government structure and the living structure that you don't fully feel it, I guess, and I don't know. I know I'm comparing it a lot to the 100, even though I haven't read the book yet, but the show is fantastic, and I know I shouldn't. Like, and they're like nothing alike besides the population control. Like, that's the only 2 things they have in common. It's just, I wanted so much more out of this book. I don't even know how to like properly explain it to you guys. In the synopsis, you are told about a girl who's a second child, and so she has to hide in walls and under floors, and then decides she no longer wants to be the second child who hides under floors and in walls. And she wants to go out into the world. The sneaking kind of scenes in this book felt very forced. And I felt like something was lacking, like the sense of urgency or fear. I didn't feel anything. I'm like, oh, she's sneaking around. Cool. And I know I'm probably a little bitter because I was expecting so much out of this. I love the cover, I love the synopsis, and I just wanted so much more out of this book that I just didn't get. I found myself getting bored. Hence why it took me so long to read. It's tiny. It's not tiny, but like, it's under 300 pages, and I was bored. Even the exciting parts didn't have any sense of urgency or like feel in general. I felt like the writing style was just words on a page. Like, they didn't give you any feeling whatsoever. But the idea and storyline of this book interests me so much, hence why I picked it up, hence why I'm comparing it to something I love with a similar story and plot line. And it was a story I was actually intrigued by. But the story and the characters themselves didn't capture me in the least, even knowing they were something I desperately wanted to enjoy and like. Okay, and one of the other things that just bothered me to no end is the fact that I actually enjoy love triangles. Probably an unpopular opinion, but I love love triangles when they're done well. I enjoy them so much. Like, there's something I actually enjoy reading. I love when a love triangle is just driving me absolutely insane, but like, I like it, if that makes sense. Like, I love very well put together love triangles, and it's one of those tropes that I actually enjoy when they're done well. This one was not done well. I actually hated it. Hated it. This one felt wrong and extremely forced. Like, it drove me absolutely insane. What I did like about kind of the main character is she's someone that has been living inside of a house all of her life. She's never gone out. She is becoming of age, and she's out in the world now, and she's trying to figure out what love is and what attraction is and her own sexuality. I mean, that itself is like beautiful, but the love triangle was not. I didn't get anything satisfying out of the love triangle, and it was just something that really let me down. And it's like, I get the confusion of not knowing what certain feelings are, or not knowing what you want, or what is acceptable, or what's right and wrong, because she had no idea. She has no idea what's right and wrong, and what's socially acceptable, and what's not, and what's okay, and what's not. I loved the character building in that aspect of her trying to figure out kind of how to live as her own human being out in the world with other people besides just her family. But the romantic love triangle was just, it was forced. It wasn't captivating in the least, and it made the interactions feel dull and unfeeling. And now that I've just talked so much about this book being 3 out of 5 stars, like I kind of want to bump it down to a 2, but I won't. I don't know. I'll have to think on that. But for now, 3 out of 5 stars because, like, I know I'm a little bitter. I enjoyed it to some extent, and there were part of the books, like Rowan's, the main characters, her character development and her figure out who she is as a person, and the ending cliffhanger was, I mean, it was okay. I'll probably be picking up the second book because I've been invested in this story for months that I feel like I should just finish it. And I own book 2, so like maybe it gets better. I don't know. Have you read book 2? Does it get better? I don't know. Next is a audiobook that I listened to, and it is Talking as Fast as I Can from Gilmore Girls to Gilmore Girls by Lauren Graham. Okay, this audiobook was fantastic. This audiobook, 5 out of 5 stars. I adored this audiobook. Lauren Graham herself narrates this audiobook, and it is spectacular. And you can just tell by her personality of her narrating this book how much feeling and personality she brought into the character of Lorelai Gilmore. And it was, oh my gosh, I feel like they're almost the same person because it's just, oh my gosh. And she talks quite a bit about how much Lorelai as a character means to her and how much she was invested in the character and how much she cared about her character. And like, it really shows. Listening to this audiobook didn't just bring Lorelai Gilmore as a character into a new light, but also Lauren Graham as a person, what struggles she took to get to where she is today, her early life, career, education. It was a struggle bus. And like that, seeing that or reading it or listening to it, whatever you want to call it, means a lot for someone who's just entering into her own career, me, myself, and how much, just because I'm struggling now with the basics and getting into my field, that doesn't mean down the road I won't be super successful. It is such a rare instance and occurrence for me to connect personally on a personal level with a celebrity. It doesn't happen very often, but listening to this audiobook, I connected with her. I felt like, hey, this could be me. Or hey, she's talking about what she went through in college and after graduation and entering in her career and like the things she struggled with and had to deal with. And I was like, wow, me too. This whole book was a quote. You can't just pick out a couple quotes and be like, these were my favorite quotes. Like the whole book is a quote. I found myself relating and connecting and laughing, and it was beautiful and amazing. When she was talking about college and wondering where her next meal was gonna come from, I am passionate about this book now and actually quite invested in it. So you should read it. She is just hilarious and real, and I recommend this book to just about anyone. The next book I read was Ghost by Jason Reynolds. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and let me tell you why. This is another book I really connected to on a personal level. So the main character is African American, and it's a boy who is in, I think, middle school himself. He's struggling, he's angry, there's things that have been happening in his life that just makes him a very angry human being, and so he's lashing out, he's getting in trouble, he's getting expelled, he's doing everything and just to get by from day to day. There are some trauma, there is some PTSD rep, it's just one like short scene in the book, but it's there. And this book has a few trigger warnings for PTSD. If that scene kind of bothers you, it is in there. It's relatively short, but it's there. It's a middle grade, so it's not super like visual, but is something you should be aware of. Also family abuse, intense but minor at the same time. Like it's at the very beginning of the book, it's something that is explained, it's intense, but then the rest of the book is how Ghost himself is kind of working through that and how Track is kind of helping him work through that and his anger. And so Castle, also aka Ghost, he nicknamed himself, and I think that is so cute. So he joins the track team. And he is someone that struggles in school, he struggles making friends, he feels and is kind of outside the norm, outside of any groups. He says he has a couple of friends, and like, I guess they could be considered friends, but like not in the friends like, oh, I could tell you anything kind of friends. friends, but someone he sits with at lunch, that kind of friend. He struggles to be a part of something that's bigger than himself, an activity or a sport, being a part of a team. He lives in a bad part of town, something I could relate to. The neighborhood I grew up in, my parents still live there and they're kind of cleaning up the neighborhood themselves, but it wasn't good. Like at the park, there were beer bottles and glass under the sand and like you really had to be careful. There was graffiti everywhere. I think I was like 10 or 11. There was a shooting drive-by down the road. Something I could really connect and relate to on that front. His mother is a single mother, so his mother and him are struggling to get by. They both seem to have PTSD. There's things and scenes in the book that they both struggle with, like sleeping in their bedrooms, stuff like that, after the traumatic experience explained at the front of the book, and kind of how they go through in their relationship. And his mother really is fantastic, very hardworking, and their relationship with each other is actually really heartwarming. Having to be that kid in that neighborhood is hard, and I can say that on a personal level. Being that kid in that neighborhood whose family is struggling financially is even harder, and I can atone to that also. But I love the characters in this book. I loved Ghost. He was a real character. He was realistic. He was well put together. His actions, though sometimes not all that great, had reasons behind it. And I could tell there was a lot of feeling that went into building this character. I think there's a lot of messages in this book, and if it's some of the things I was talking about you haven't experienced yourself, but would like to kind of understand or put yourself into someone else's shoes, I think this is a great book to pick up. It's short, it's an easy read, and it has so many messages within the book that I think anyone should read. Everyone should read, middle grade or not. This book was fantastic. Like, go out and read it. My next book was probably my favorite book of the month, and I buddy read this with Noria, and she was my buddy read roulette buddy reader for the Valentines, and we read Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I love this book, okay? The characters were amazing. I am so invested in every single one of them now. I love the main character, Karu, her best friend Zuzu, and oh my god. Okay. Brimstone, favorite character of all time. I love him, and the ending of this book had me a bit heartbroken. I'm kind of wondering how much of it is true, whose ass do I have to kick, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. So Nori and I love this book so much that she actually invited me to buddy read the next one with her, and the one after that, and then the one after that. So we're going to be buddy reading together for 4 months. She is a fantastic buddy reader, very invested in the buddy read, and she really cares about me as a human being. And yes, she is, oh my gosh, she's like one of my new favorite people, so yeah. But this book, the characters, amazing. The character development, so well put together. The creation of every single one of them is just so beautifully tailored that you can't help but just love them. Even the characters you don't like, you enjoy reading about them still. Also, something about this book it had a little bit of that I don't particularly like in other books is flashbacks. I'm not a big flashback kind of person, and I guess I'm very like, let's live in the now, like now, what's going on now, what's gonna happen next, and I'm not a big like, let's go back into the past and, you know, dissect what happened. That's not me. But this book, the flashbacks were done so well, and I was so invested in the storyline and the characters themselves that like I actually kind of wanted to know like how'd they get here. So they were flashbacks I didn't hate, which says a lot. It says a whole lot. So yes. Also, Laini Taylor's writing, this is the first book I've read by her. I know a lot of people have been reading Strange with the Dreamer and love it. Her writing is so poetic, beautiful. Like, she constructs words, puts them together so well. Even if it's a part of the book that you're like, oh, okay, whatever. You're just so invested in it because the writing is so magical. It's like a beautiful creation just wrapped up in a pretty book. This is probably my favorite book of the year so far, and it's gonna take a lot to match this book for me. One of my new favorite series probably. Nori and I just started book 2, but like I can see this being one of my favorite series of all time. I adore it so much. Oh, my camera is overheating. Lovely. I guess we should wrap this up. The last thing is Paper Girls by a bunch of people. Van, Chiang, Wilson, and Fletcher. And I've seen this graphic novel going around and about for a little bit. I actually gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Like, I liked it, but I didn't like it. I liked it, but I was confused. I liked it, but there's just a lot of buts. I liked it, but yeah. So this is a graphic novel, and the art is very unique, and I like it. I do. I I like the art, and I'm kind of picky with art because I'm an artist, but I really did enjoy the style of this art for this graphic novel in particular. What I didn't like about this, okay, the characters were okay. It only kind of talks about like 2, and then the other ones are just like there, which is fine. It jumped around a lot. The scenes were cut short and then it was somewhere else. And something else was happening with different people, or the scene was cut short and then somewhere else doing something else with other people. They were dealing with an issue and then it was cut short and they were dealing with a different issue, and like at the time I didn't even know where I was in the story. I was just like, what is going on? I don't understand. I was just very confused. I don't know if it's because I don't have a lot of experience with graphic novels, but I was confused. And I think that's mainly why it's a 3 out of 5 and not like a 4 out of 5, is because I felt like the storyline itself was very choppy. And it got a little better closer to the end, and I'm wondering volume 2 might be a little better, but it was very choppy, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on for the majority of the time. But I do like the characters. The characters are nice. I would have liked a little bit more character development, and that's saying a lot because, like I said, I'm more kind of plot driven. But when I kind of don't know who the characters are, like at all, I have a hard time connecting with them or enjoying reading about them. So yes, but I do plan on continuing this graphic novel. It's just, I'm hoping it gets a little bit better or the storyline gets a little smoother. And so that's it. Those are all my 7 books. Please let me know if you've read any of these, how you feel about them. Tell me how you feel about Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I will gush out with anyone. Just don't give me any spoilers. I'm only on book 2. No spoilers. But like, we can talk about book 1 all day, every day. We can make new friendships out of this book. Because Nori and I are obviously like new besties because of this book. So let's keep that ball rolling. But yeah, let me know what books you read in February, or if you have read any of the books I read, and just kind of like, you know, comment down below. I like making new friends. I like talking to you guys. So like, yeah. But if you haven't already, I have my March TBR video up and about. It's new. It's a board game that I made in art school, and it's quite unique and creative. So if you haven't seen it yet, don't worry. I will link it up above, and at the end of this video you should see a little like clicky for it because it's my latest video. So I'll probably put like the show latest video at the end of this video like thing. Wow, I'm rambling, but I'm gonna go. I hope you enjoyed February and enjoy March, and all the love. Bye.